Welcome to this lecture pod on timber and woodwork for ENGR 2026 Design Semantics. The image that you saw on the front cover was a close-up of this work by designer Mark Newsome. Mark Newsome is an Australian designer who has worked in a variety of materials and has produced many different product lines for interior design, industrial design and architecture. To begin with, we're going to have a look at wood and materials. I'll cover some of the sustainability issues surrounding your selection of wood. We'll talk about wood anatomy or timber anatomy, and we will also look at some manufacturing processes. To begin with, it is really important for students to understand sustainability issues concerning the supply of timber and the use of timber in Australia as well as overseas. There is what is called a chain of custody certification process, and this process traces wood through an inventory and stock control system and provides the consumer with an understanding of where your wood comes from and how different stakeholders abide by the regulations that government imposes to ensure that we have plenty of timber forests to keep us alive, essentially, because as we know, we get our oxygen from trees, and also to ensure that we have forests for many generations to come. The certification process begins with the forest where the wood is harvested right through to manufacturing, and it concludes at the point of sale. For example, the timber yard, hardware store or furniture store may all be certified as part of this chain of custody. The process not only applies to timber and forests in Australia, but also abroad. So there's an international body that looks after all the forests around the world and how we protect our forests. So wood products from a certified forest may have documentation or a product label showing evidence of the product's certified origin. This information permits traceability back to the last certified organisation that possessed the timber product within the supply chain. Each company within the chain must undergo what's called independent certification, and we have a certifier in Australia who I will cover in a moment. This ensures that every link in the chain of custody remains unbroken, emphasising the commitment to responsible and sustainable wood sourcing practices. The Forest Stewardship Council is an international organisation. It's an independent, non-government, not-for-profit organisation, and it promotes responsible management of the world's forests. Their vision, or the vision that anybody using FSC certified goods has, is that the world's forests need to meet the social, ecological and economic rights and needs of the present generation without compromising those of future generations. Most importantly, their mission promotes environmentally appropriate, socially beneficial and economically viable management of the world's forests. It ensures that the harvest of timber and non-timber products maintains the world's biodiversity, productivity and ecological processes. The PEFC program is a program that's extremely important for industrial designers. PEFC remains the certification system choice for small non-industrial private forests, with forest owners certified to comply with a sustainability benchmark. So the PEFC has checklists, and you can apply for certification through meeting these checklists. It's an international, non-profit, non-governmental organisation dedicated to promoting sustainable forest management through independent third-party certifications. So there are people that can go through your plantation and certify that your forest meets all of the sustainability guidelines set out by the FSC standards. So PEFC works throughout the entire forest supply chain, and it promotes good practice to ensure that timber and non-timber forest products are produced with respect to ecological, social, and ethical standards. Products have eco-labels so customers and consumers can identify products from sustainably managed forests. In Australia, we have two principal certification schemes to regulate forest sustainability. We have the Australian Forest Standard, which is also known as Responsible Wood, and Responsible Wood promotes and follows the PEFC standards, which we talked about in the previous slide. And it also follows the Forest Stewardship Council guidelines. The principal goals of Responsible Wood, which is a not-for-profit organisation, is to set standards in collaboration with stakeholders. It oversees the certification process to ensure compliance in the forest industry, and it provides assessment and accreditation to bodies as recognised by government. So when we're selecting our timbers, we want to make sure that we're using PEFC certified goods. And if you go to your timber yard or lumber yard, your planks of wood should be labelled as complying with PEFC standards. So we will have a look at labelling systems as well. Essentially, when you go to the timber yard, you'll be looking for either a hardwood or a softwood. And there are certain characteristics of each that you can have a look at and determine whether one is better than the other depending on your needs. So if you're looking for a hardwood that would have long cell structures, the tree generally has broad leaves. The growth rings on the trunk are hard to distinguish, so they might be very close together or similar in colour. Hardwoods are generally very slow growing, so it takes sometimes hundreds of years for a tree to actually grow to maturity. The tree is generally a very durable species, and there's a vast colour range. So some hardwood examples are oak trees, mahogany, maple, walnut, beech, ash, cherry wood, and olive wood. Australia has eucalyptus, ironbark, and spotted gum, also beautiful hardwood species. Interestingly, balsa is considered a hardwood due to the large cell structure, even though it is lightweight and easy to work. So just be careful when selecting the wood that you need. You might want to do a little bit of research prior to committing to purchasing or specifying a large quantity of timber. Softwood is generally distinguished from hardwood because it comes from cone-bearing trees such as conifers. The tree leaves are very much needle-like. So if you think about conifer trees, pine trees, they've got really spiky, spindly leaves. So that would be a softwood. It's quick growing. The cells are hollow and spindle-shaped, and the sides of the cells have small holes to enable nutrients to travel very quickly to the very tall trunks. Often, softwood has a pale colour and the growth rings are visible on a section of trunk. Often, not always, softwood is easier to work with than hardwood species. And you'll find that some of the softwood examples are spruce, fir, pine, giant redwood, sequoia, and cedar. And this diagram gives you some of the details in the cells so that you can see the different cell structures. So as you can see on the top right, you've got a label that says softwood. These cells are quite long, and the section of cell shows that it's almost rectangular, whereas the hardwood has long, almost tubular type cell structures. So that is how we distinguish whether one is a hardwood or a softwood.